Hey, what's up? I'm Guy.
I'm John.
It's our YouTube channel. Subscribe to the channel. Give this video a like.
Podcast below in the description. Check it out as well.
Adam Schefter, guest of the show, tweeted this, John. Seahawks quarterback Russell Wilson has not demanded a trade. His agent, Mark Rogers, told ESPN. Wilson has told the Seahawks that he wants to play in Seattle, but if a trade were considered, the only teams he would go to are the Cowboys, the Saints, the Raiders, and the Bears. We'll get specifically to the Raiders part of this later, but this is partly a reaction to the big article in The Athletic that didn't look good for him, didn't look great for Pete Carroll, just didn't look good for anybody.
I think this is a tough. Did you see the video of that MMA guy fighting the Oklahoma wide receiver and kicking the crap out of him?
Damn right I did. 13 times.
I think Russell is the ultimate politician, and anyone that watches him all the time in Seattle, and obviously people on the national level, just a little cheesy for me. And I separate that from the player, right? The player is incredible. I think he's one of the greatest players I've ever seen. The shtick, I'm not even talking the go Hawks. I'm talking just the all the BS. Just be a fucking human, and we can argue all day long. Is that him? Is it not? I don't know.
Can I interject before you make the rest of your point? Because I think it's a really good point. I asked somebody who used to play with him, and I said, what's the deal? Like, is he disliked or is he just not loved? You know, like there's a difference. Yeah. And he said, I don't know how it is now because he's really blown up. He said, when I was there, everyone respected him because he worked hard, but he was just a really hard guy to connect with because you didn't know if it was real. Sorry, keep going.
So it could be a little, could it be fake or could that just be who he is? Like, did you read the GQ article with Ciara?
No.
Well, the only reason I did is because I saw people tweeting about it and it was outrageous. And then you read it, it was like, they got to be together when he's getting a massage for his Thursday game and she's holding his hand. It was just stuff that Big Cat had a good rant on it. Like, you're telling me he's never like farted and they laugh. It's like, be a human. And I think the problem is like Deshaun Watson is kind of being a human. Did you see the tweet today? He met with David Culley last week and said, I am not playing for you. And it's like, you know what? The guy is just being a human. Russell's like, Guy, if I was going to kick your ass, I'd hit you with a bat in the back of your kneecap, or we could hug and shake hands. It's like, Russell, just say you want fucking out, or just take a stance. Like he's trying to play, and the Athletic article is really good. I mean, he is a little over the top right now in like a PR campaign, and Seattle's in a tough spot, right? They're kind of in no man's land. Of course, they don't want to trade the best player in the history of their franchise. I don't know, that happens to play quarterback, but clearly it's like, well, this guy's getting a little bit of a pain. He walks into these personnel meetings. He thinks he's, Ron Wolf. And it's like, okay, Russell, who are your top 10 players? Like, it's easy for all the like pro player guys. It's like, he just wants things done. Well, like what? Like, what do you want to do? You want this player? Well, he costs X.
Right. We can't get Trent Williams because we're paying you 15% of the cap.
Yeah, we don't have any fucking money, Russell. So it's like, okay, you want these drafts? Like, I would say, and we've talked about this before, I've always looked at, we make fun of John for trading down. He has traded a lot of picks for players. Do you view Seattle? I would encompass this baseball, basketball, and football as one of the more aggressive organizations in sports since Russell's been there.
Yep. I do view them that way.
Like a top 8, 10 organization of just, I'm including all 3 major sports of just like, they are not afraid to take massive swings.
Yeah, definitely the swings. There are some threads here that feel like the frustrations and the situation with Aaron Rodgers and the Packers a couple of years ago when it was like, they're never getting him any weapons. They're never getting him any weapons.
They've done it twice, guy. Percy Harvin and Jimmy Graham. It didn't work, but it's like they took huge swings.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just saying Seattle is more aggressive than even Green Bay has been in that regard, right? When it comes to getting their star quarterback weapons. Sure. And yet we're kind of, so it's like, well, it's not about weapons. It's about protecting them. Okay, well, I mean, it's about the offense they run. It's about this like fundamental. The other push and pull of that article was Pete Carroll has a fundamental philosophy about how to play football, and there's this theme, like this feeling like Russell wants to be great, but he also wants to be a star, and those things don't necessarily have to be separated, right? Brady became a star because he was great, not because he was a star.
You've read the book, right?
Which book?
Parts of it? Peace.
I have read parts of Pete's book, yeah.
Wasn't the big thing is when he got fired from the NFL before he ended up in USC, was it that he met with John Wooden? Was that the guy? Or whoever he met with was some famous, I thought, coach that told them, you have to be true to yourself. And that's where Pete just like, I'm me. I'm an always compete, energetic guy. Double down on that, and it's worked.
Yeah. But part of the Athletic article is like, well, but you have your kids around, and no one can really tell you what to do. And are we really always compete? Just if we're presenting the other side. That was part of what the Athletic article suggested.
One of his kids like disappeared and then came back.
Well, he was mad because his role had been, I don't know. Yeah.
That was separate from the kid that's now at Arizona, right?
Yeah,
there was Nolan and Brennan.
Right.
Which I get. And listen, there are two truths to this. I think I would imagine it's somewhere in the middle. I would imagine Russell has a lot of valid points. I think anyone listening to this, if you've ever worked for anyone, and that's ultimately kind of Russell, even though Pete still works for someone else, he is a very, very powerful boss. And the dynamic is there. Russell ultimately answers to Pete. There is a dynamic where Russell, who is, one of the most talented guys in like league, his talent is immense, thinks he's right on 100% of the things. Pete thinks he's right on 100% of the things. They probably meet somewhere in the middle. I do think, and we can relate, we've been through a pretty contentious breakup, and I don't compare it to, because Seattle
not with each other, with our radio station.
Yeah, with our radio station, and it was
John
not
was
successful.
The contentious one.
Yeah, but it wasn't like we were at WFAN and I wanted out. We were at a thing that was going into the ground, and we got out. Yeah. So Seattle, they're having success, right?
Yeah, well, yes.
Well, they had to pay us to go away.
That's right. They're having success by a certain standard, but not by the standard that they kind of set for themselves when they went to back-to-back Super Bowls, right?
But part of that, I think they'd look back and go, "Well, Russ, you were way cheaper. Our team was way better."
Sure.
I mean, I just honestly, it feels like Russell's over Pete, and in a weird way, Pete and John maybe over him a little bit. Here's the one thing:
but you can't be the guys that traded Russell Wilson.
But can you?
Well, I mean, hold on. You can be, but it's. Even if you don't love him, you're still like, he is the quarterback, and that's kind of a big deal on an NFL team.
I was driving within the last couple weeks. I forget who said it. Might have been on NFL radio. Someone had said that back when Paul Allen was alive and like really healthy. So for probably the first, if John Schneider's been there 10 or 11 years, 80% of it. After every single game, John Schneider had to write a report to Paul Allen on every single play. I mean, it was pretty crazy. But I think a lot of people saw Paul Allen and been like, just the richest guy in the league, but just kind of cool to work for. I think, and I know Coward, who's pretty tight end up there too, said that a huge void since Paul has died, that Pete's power has grown exponentially because there ain't no more reports being written. Because the sister, I think, or the daughter, whoever's now in charge, does not give a shit about football or know anything. And I think Russell's probably looking, he's going unchecked. And I think John Schneider gets kind of tied into this. One, John was the guy that loved you. Two, he doesn't have any juice. Like, he ultimately answers to Pete Carroll, who makes like $13-14 million a year. Makes a ton. And I think he's worth it. He's the best coach in the history of their franchise. And Russell's the best quarterback in the history of their franchise. Isn't this kind of normal? Like, they've had a decade-long run, and they just start butting heads. Like, big egos, big money guys. Like, let's not act like Pete's the village idiot, which I think Twitter can act like, and anyone that's pro-player is going to act like. The Pete Carroll that I've watched for 2 decades kicks the shit out of people, right? And he's better with Russ. Just like Russ, I'd say, hey, Russ, you could have gone to a lot of crappy places and not become what you became. Like, you should, which it's harder the bigger you become, realize, like, this has been a pretty good deal for me, right?
Yes.
Because you're viewed as you win. You're not trying to win. You win.
Well, no, but then there becomes the why do we win? Do we win because of me and lose because of you? Right? Because that's what it feels like both of them.
Well, when we won the biggest, here's what I'd say if I was Pete. When we won the biggest back-to-back Super Bowls 1-1, it was because we were the number one defense in the league. What am I, Russ? Oh, yeah, I'm a defensive guy. What are you, Russ? Oh, yeah, you're the quarterback. Remember when you used to hand it off a lot? And I'm not trying to be anti-Russ. I like Russ. But I think there's a push and pull with this, and I know social media is going to lean with Russ. And you always lean with the good player, and I'm not pro-trading players away, but I think that we just act like it'll become Seattle's the village idiots really fast, and that's just bullshit. I mean, you and I, living in this area, have had a front row seat watching this franchise, seen them live countless times. Like, they are a big boy operation, and it ain't just Russ. Like, they have a elite coach might be strong, but he's damn good, and their GM's damn good. Like they what are they? Would you say over the decade of the 2010s? Patriots would clearly be one. I think they would be in the running for the number 2.
Yeah, Saints would be in the conversation, right? But they've been to 2 Super Bowls.
Yeah, 1-1. You know? Saints didn't win one. Packers maybe. Like it's a short list. They're on it.
Yeah, and their floor is really high. That's the other thing with them. Is like they never look like, even when they're struggling, they're a potential playoff team, right? So their standard has never dropped below, let's make the playoffs. Like, not making the playoffs is an absolute failure. Even losing in the first round is a failure for them, which is a testament to how high they've raised the bar.
But, like, for example, when they trade 2 1s and a 2 to get Jamal Adams, the thing with football, I mean, all 3 sports are, the 3 major sports are team sports. But in football, there's, like, offense, defense. So it's like, I think Russ would go, well, it doesn't help me out. Well, it helps the whole thing out, right?
Yeah, I mean, look at the Bucs.
But isn't that, like, does Pete and John get credit for doing that? Like, isn't that a big swing? I haven't even mentioned that.
You're saying like, from Russell, does Russell give them credit for that?
Yeah. It's like, hey, thanks for getting us.
He might have wanted Jamal Adams. He might have been like, yeah, finally you did something I said to do. Right? I don't know. But
like, oh, yeah, Russ, well, thanks for that.
Yeah, but I also think if you investigated any football team to this depth, you'd find all kinds of stuff. The question is what ultimately happens. Can they figure it out? Or are both of them going to go, well, now it's kind of out there. It makes it a little easier. Does the Seahawks think now that it's out there, it makes it easier for them to do it? The idea that the team is –
I take it. I think Russ wants it out there so it makes it easier to break up. I think Russ wants a breakup, don't you?
Well, I mean, yeah, I do. Because there's no question where he would go next, they would have to treat him very differently than where he is now. But I also think he wants the worst case scenario here to be that he stays and they have to listen to him, right? Because they have to really do some hard introspection and think about, do we really want to trade Russell Wilson, and come back and decide that no, we don't. Now, the one thing he does, if you want it out, saying I want to go to the Cowboys, the Saints, the Bears doesn't really help you get traded, especially the Saints. Are they really going to trade him to Sean Payton?
Well, they have no money, so they'd have to cut guys. 2, their picks, once they got them, I think we'd all expect those picks to just be in the 20s moving forward, right?
Yeah, so you're not setting yourself up to get moved there, even though can't guard Michael Thomas posted on Instagram a photo of him and Russ from the Pro Bowl. And the Bears thing, I mean, the Bears would happily do it, but again, you're going to trade them within your conference when you think you can win conference championship? Same for the Cowboys. Now, the Raiders, on the other hand, and we'll get to what the Raiders would have to pay, like, that would make me think if I were the Seahawks. Because you could get Derek Carr, and all the stuff that Athletic article said they hate about Russ would be stuff that they love about Derek. Derek would be like, yeah, no, let's run the ball. I don't want to turn it over. I'll be coachable. I'd love to play. Derek would love to play for Pete, I think. Now, I don't think he'd want to leave the Raiders, but that one does make you think. But to me, Russ didn't give them that many teams that they would really trade him to. That's why I'm a little skeptical that that's what he really wants.
Yeah, I would tend to agree, but I don't think players think like that. Players aren't. This is where I think my pushback is. Like, he's not consumed with the cap. He's not consumed with I guess all those spots, right, beside Derek, which Russ ain't going to care about. The Dak situation. The Saints don't have a quarterback. Obviously, the Bears don't have a quarterback. But he's not consumed with this team's X number of dollars. He doesn't give a shit.
He might just think Chicago's a great market. Dallas, I'd be a star there. The Saints, we'd win.
Yeah, Vegas, my wife's happy.
Yeah, but they're a weird combination. Like, none of them are the same. It'd be one thing if it was like L.A., New York, Chicago. I'd be like, okay, the Raiders, I get it.
Yeah, but I think we all have, in a weird way, like, everyone likes different things. About whatever you're interested in or whatever you want to pursue.
Okay, what's Chicago?
There's an element of what's a huge city, and he goes, they got a good defense. I'm fucking an elite player.
Yeah, great.
I think, in fairness to him, here's where I will defend him. Russ could be like, you could trade me to the Jags tomorrow. We're in the playoffs. Like, I'm one of the best. I'm a top 2 or 3 player in this league.
That's my point. If he really wants to get traded, then his list has to be more than 4 teams.
Yeah, but a part of it, and it's already been pretty well established, the market matters to him, right?
Yes, yeah.
That's where I think the Saints, a little smaller market, but cool market, and he gets a sweet coach. That one's more like I can win a Super Bowl there.
Absolutely. That's about being in the Brady. That's about getting yourself that's about a legacy.
The other three are I'm good enough to help these teams, will be sweet, and the market's going to take me to superstardom, which he's already a superstar. Yeah, does Vegas change it? I think the Vegas thing's more about his wife.
I agree.
The Cowboys, pure brand.
That one's no-brainer.
The Bears, kind of best of all the worlds.
Russ is like, send me to McCarthy.
That's a little weird. Yeah.
But these are details you figure out later.
I'm the most intrigued by the Raiders. I want to dive into that.
Okay.